So She Said was directed by Maria Schrader and stars Carey Mulligan and Zoe Kazan, and is the story of the two New York Times journalists who brought forth together the story about Harvey Weinstein's sexual harassment and assault allegations, and the women who came forward in order to tell the story, and the trials and tribulations that the story went through in order to get published, and essentially what spawned the Me Too movement, which is something that we all know about is going on to this day. We lived this in real time. I have to assume that everybody who was watching this video at this point was around in 2017 when the story went live, and pretty much on a global scale it started off a lot of different stories being told, lots of harrowing stories that women were coming forward with, and the horrible things that some of them have had to experience in their lives. And again, it wasn't just restricted to one part of the world. It started right around here, and then eventually the stories that came through were incredibly tragic. But again, I did not expect this story to get told so soon in a movie form, but I am kind of glad it is, because if nothing else, She Said might keep the conversation going, which is important. I think sometimes there is this tendency of people moving on, which I don't think you should. This is a pretty serious situation that people do need to keep talking about, and so I'm glad that the movie exists, and I think Maria Schrader does a really good job of directing it. This is a very powerfully told film and very powerfully acted equally. I think Carey Mulligan and Zoe Kazan are both fantastic actresses, and this movie proves that once again. They do a really good job just showcasing how difficult it was to actually tell the story, and all the things that went into trying to tell it. It wasn't obviously easy from like a mental toll perspective, or in terms of like just trying to bring justice. And I think Schrader captures these very, very well. And the script that is also along with it, it does it in a very matter-of-fact way, which I think was really, really effective. It helps land that movie, the movie's core themes and its tenets extremely well. And even if it's not necessarily adding much to the conversation of this particular story, which it doesn't really, like I said, if you lived it in real time, if you saw the updates coming in when the article first went live in 2017, then you pretty much know exactly how that went, and so there's nothing that's going to essentially surprise you in there. So I could say that that movie doesn't really have any new information. It's not exactly a movie you can go on critiquing in terms of how it is. I mean, really it comes down to the direction, writing, and the acting over here. And as long as the film is able to pull those off and tell the story that it is trying to tell, then it is a success. I was, however, surprised at a couple of things, which is in some situations they seem to have actually brought the women who came forward to enact that again on camera and to essentially tell their stories, like Ashley Judd, for instance. That I did not expect, and I thought that was a very bold move for a movie to do. In fact, the whole time I kept thinking this must be harrowing for her, but at the same time I gotta give it up to her, because that takes an insane amount of courage to be able to redo that. And I mean, more power to her for making that happen. Nicholas Brittle's score also really, really great in this movie. I mean, if we really want to go into the technical aspects of things like that, something I saw a friend of mine say online, and she said it I think in her review also, is that she saw some comments about how the film was not flashy enough in terms of like its direction. So the direction wasn't necessarily amazing because it wasn't like visually something like appealing or something like that. It's not that kind of movie. It's a journalistic piece essentially, which is basically telling you a story of how this came to be, the article. In that sense, it's directed pretty well. It's actually visually pretty well shot too. I mean, it's not like revolutionary or anything, but then again, direction is not about just the visuals. Like, it's also about the story that you're telling. And just to, repeat what I was saying, the film did that. And so I do recommend seeing it. It is in theaters now. You can go check it out. I don't know if it's, like I said, going to give you any new information per se, but it is a very well told movie with some terrific performances across the board, and one that just reaffirms that the conversation around this topic should not go quietly away and should continue to be a part of society and continue to be dealt with. I'm gonna give She Said an 8.5 out of 10. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Look forward to more reviews very soon. As always, if you like this, please just subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the movies.